You know, the better decisions you make. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. We have to have something to base it on besides emotion. For example, you know, with what happened with 9/11, people were so fast to jump on a bandwagon to give up their civil liberties for safety without understanding that that was the very core of the Constitution, was to protect those civil liberties in times of danger. Then that was the most important time.
Excellent point.
And to keep the government accountable. So the more we understand, you know, we had internment camps in World War II with Japanese Americans because of the fear that they were unpatriotic. That's the danger when we have those moments, and we have to be most careful. That's what makes us a light unto other nations. That's what, we are the oldest democracy, constitutional democracy in the world. Because what happens is, you know, we have a dispersal of power, meaning that two branches of the government would have to get together and make an agreement over the third. If one branch has too much power, no matter how noble those intentions are.
Well, we've given an awful lot of power to the executive branch. In the last 8 years, it's unprecedented in the amount of power that that administration, the Bush administration, has taken for itself. You know, and this has all been in the news, the warrantless wiretapping, for example. Should they do it? Should they not be allowed to do it? Under what circumstances? But if we go to the Constitution, there is no situation in which you can tap an American on American soil without a warrant.
Exactly.
Without a warrant. You can do it for a period of time without a warrant, but you must eventually, if you have an emergency, you must go back and get the warrant.
Well, the FISA court is set up to allow that for if they're in cases of emergency. That was why the FISA court was set up.
FISA court is a secret court created in 1978-79 by the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, came out during Jimmy Carter's era. That was an effort to get spies and espionage, and after 9/11 and during the Bush administration, that court's powers has been expanded greatly. It's a secret court. It's an ex parte court where only the government really gets to make their case. It's not like the citizens can go there, and they pretty much, I know people in the FBI don't like it when I say this, but they do pretty much rubber stamp those warrants. And the FBI will say, oh, no, you don't realize how many checks and balances we have to do before we get to the FISA court. But the evidence suggests that they haven't denied many of their applications, and that may be because they're so good at what they're doing, or because the FISA court is just rubber stamping it. So that's suitable for argument. I grant that. But the point is, it's a secret court, and people cannot go there and see it. It's done behind closed doors, and there's only about 11 of them, I think, in the country. And that's been greatly expanded, and a lot of people don't know that. And that's something the ACLU argued against back when it was created. But instead of using it for foreign intelligence, espionage, and spies, it's come down to the drug war, to individuals and U.S. citizens. The USA Patriot Act helped do that.
Or sidestepping it completely, not even going through the FISA court.
Right. That's some things that the executive branch may have done. Look at what we're doing in Guantanamo, what we've done there. We've captured people from around the world and put them in prison and labeled them enemy combatants, but not given them any opportunity to say, I'm not. Suppose we do have the wrong people there. Is that the kind of country we want to be? Or are we a country that ennobilizes what's in the Constitution and cherishes it and says you are entitled to due process, you're entitled to confront your accusers, you're entitled to your day in open court, and if you're the bad guy or the bad woman, then you're entitled to go off and stay in prison or to suffer whatever penalties are due to you under due process. But Guantanamo, when it was envisioned and when it was first created, did not give those people that opportunity. We're getting away from that now, but why? Because there's a handful of people who argued that that shouldn't be the case. And that's sometimes the way things get changed. Margaret Mead has a great quote on that. We're going to take a short break. We're halfway through the program. You're a great guest. I'm glad you're here. You're watching a program called Civil Discourse. We're talking about civic education. We're going to talk a little bit more about definitions. We're going to give you some quotes. We're going to talk more with Dvorah Ben-Moshe, an attorney, graduate of Florida Coastal School of Law, the creator, the co-founder. We're going to also expose who the other co-founder is in the second half of a company called Civication Incorporated. Take a look at this. We'll be right back.
It should be a simple idea. An organization dedicated to preserving the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. It should be a simple idea. An organization dedicated to preserving the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, our freedom of speech and religion, the right to assemble, the freedom of the press.
Welcome back to Civil Discourse. My name is Ken Hurley, and we're talking with Dvorah Ben-Moshe. And she's an attorney, graduated from Florida Coastal School of Law, and she's co-founded an organization called Civication Incorporated. Civication. Now, Dvorah, maybe we should say who your co-founder is with you. And if you don't want to say, I'll say, but I'll give you the opportunity to say who it is. Go ahead, I'm listening. Go ahead.
You, Ken.
Who?
Ken Hurley.
Oh, me? Yeah, we actually got together and decided this is something that needs to be done based on our personal observations, independent of each other. And when we started talking, we said, my goodness, you know, there's people out there doing it, but we just don't think, we think they're scratching at the surface. And the way we said in the beginning of the program, there's generation after generation, and we're getting away from it. And we're creating a society of people who don't really understand the workings of our government. And they're being taken advantage of in so many ways. Now, things change all the time, and that's what we want to try to do, is make an effort at making a change, a positive change for the new generations coming up, so that they have a fun in learning this kind of material. I think it's important. For example, you had a quote from Thomas Jefferson that you wanted to share.
Right. Well, before I do that, the whole point about the Constitution was that it was difficult to change. Very difficult to change, because we know that when people in power have that power, it's very easy to become a tyrant or a dictator with that kind of power. So the idea behind the Constitution was we have dispersal, limited power, and that it has to be a checks and balance. And there's a saying, you know, there can be no enduring freedom where government is not bound by a constitution. And Thomas Jefferson said, "Let no more be heard of confidence in man, but bind him down from mischief by the chains of the Constitution."
What does that say to you? How do you speak that in your words?
Right. Well, the point that it can't be changed in terms of crisis. You know, when something like 9/11 or you know, a war happens, that's not the time to throw the Constitution out and start making new rules. That is a guiding principle that we go back to. The problem is that the Constitution, as I learned in 7th grade, has something called, or they taught us, an elastic clause, which left it open to interpretation, which is the danger of who's interpreting the Constitution. What is. When you leave that in the power of people, and they knew that. But the whole idea behind leaving that open for interpretation, this was written many years ago, and this was supposed to be for every generation. Well, we can't foresee what will happen in the future, so we have to leave it open to some type of
There's no other way it can be. The ACLU gets hammered by some people, not a lot, but some people who seem to not understand the phrase that when we claim it to be a living, breathing document, they take that very literally and say it's not. It's a static document. It should be interpreted as it was written, and some people claim themselves to be strict constructionists. Others claim themselves to be originalists. But the point here is each generation reads it from their perspective, and with new knowledge, those words take on different concepts, and you wind up with different people interpreting it in different manners. Look at Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the Supreme Court. She's going to have a different opinion reading the same document than Anton Scalia. But they're both on the Supreme Court reading the same document.
Right, because people are fallible. And in times of crisis, that's when we need it most. The whole is not only that it's difficult to change the amendment process. We only have 27 amendments, and 2 of them cancel out each other. The 19th and the 21st, which is prohibition.
Right. Prohibition of alcohol. We said we didn't want to drink. We were going to be a dry nation. Then what happened after we did that? We gave the women